Hey, everybody. It's been a fascinating month around topics like identity, trust, and workplace innovation. And no better to dive deeper than Raj from Trua. Raj, how are you?
Hey, Evan, how are you? I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
I'm doing well. Thanks so much for joining. You've been busy at Trua with attendance at HR Tech and ID Week and other events. Before that, maybe introduce yourself for those who aren't familiar with Trua and the mission, the goal.
Hi, my name is Raj Ananthan Pillai. I'm the founder and CEO of Trua, truame.com. We have what we call a trust credential for life, similar to a TSA pre-check for the commercial world. So you get it once, verify all your attributes, all your background, and then you can disclose it based on the relying parties verification requirements. If they just want age, you disclose only age. If they want your verification of your education, you only disclose that. You don't disclose any of the underlying raw data like a social security or date of birth or current address and so on and so forth. So it's very privacy preserving approach to lots and lots of problems that are plaguing the society today in terms of verifying a human individual, including AI, fakes, and so on and so forth. So this is the best way to verify the identity that includes biometric and biographic data verification.
Well, fantastic topic, particularly in the HR arena where identity innovation is really something a lot of people are paying attention to. What are some of the key challenges in human resources when it comes to building trust in the hiring and sort of general workforce life cycle? What is broken there at the
Oh, one of
moment?
the things that we always get is a big chunk of the hiring is also now these days remote
Mm.
hiring, and also bots responding to your advertisements. Like if you have a job post, a lot of bots respond to it without knowing if there is an individual or a human on the other side. So we have a pretty innovative solution for those kinds of stuff without, breaking the bank, so to speak. And people, especially HR people, are still stuck in the analog world. They're still stuck in the legacy way of doing things. The world has moved on to digital, and now beyond that, even to AI based transactions and communication. So HR has not adapted to it. They're still trying to verify individuals one at a time. So what we have is and more importantly, HR cannot do any of your verification until they're offering a job to a candidate. That's a
Mm.
big issue. Whereas our approach lets you provide a background or a verification of your identity ahead of time. That way, as soon as you get the job offer, they can start the very next day if necessary, if all else being verified. So HR, we've got a lot of companies now signing on to our Trua Score, Trua platform, where they get to verify the background, the identity, and so on and so forth. And then it becomes even more important for people who are hiring remote, right? So you get a resume and then you hire somebody remotely. You have no idea if the resume, the individual on the camera, and or the individual that you are verifying are all the same, given the AI issues and other issues. So we literally sift through all of that and give you a very high assurance individual that say this is the individual that you will be hiring, and this is the individual whose background has been verified, and this is the individual that has all of the attributes that you are looking for. So that is the best approach to do it, and that's where we are finding a lot of traction and a lot of people flocking to us now.
Yeah,
And
what
that
do you
was
think
loud
is?
and clear at the HR Tech conference as well, by the
Mm.
way. Everybody's talking about issues in hiring and issues. And sometimes these conferences are good, but they just talk around the issue as opposed to confronting the issue head on. And one of the things we have done is head on and say, okay, there are fakes out there. We have to verify that.
Interesting. So many issues to unpack there. What do you think the greatest sense of urgency is around? Is it fraud prevention, as you mentioned, candidate trust? You've got compliance in healthcare and other areas. Or is there something else, or all of the above?
It is all of the above, but if you think about it, it's more of compliance and critical infrastructure. Healthcare has
Mm.
become, unfortunately, critical infrastructure now as well, and other banking and other places, right? If you have something wrong, right, and if there are tools available that you didn't use, there's no more hiding behind the fact that, oh, I didn't know this is an issue. It's like 15 years ago or 10 years ago, you can hide behind data breaches and say, oh, I didn't know what to do. There are tools today to address those issues. So HR has to step up. And if they don't, talk to their peers in the organization and say, hey, how can I solve this problem, right? They are not necessarily tech savvy. They're not necessarily out there listening to what's going on in the industry. So you need to clearly have that awareness of what's available and how to solve those problems. So the key issue again is wrong hire, negligent hiring, and the negligent retention. That's the big issue,
Hmm.
and it's no recovery from that, because not only you get fined and all kinds of issues with the regulators, but also your reputation is at risk.
Absolutely. So Identity Week was a big event. I think every day should be Identity Day. And in fact, identity is back in the headlines, digital identity, with some of the UK news about a national identity card. Um, doesn't this solve all of our problems, or what? What's your take on this UK identity card? I lived in the UK for 6 years, so I'm very familiar with the environment there. But I guess every country is potentially looking at this kind of approach, right?
Yep. National Digital ID is the beginning of digital dystopia, in my
Oh,
opinion.
wow.
So you never, ever, ever give. Yes, they are. The only issue with the digital ID is they can just turn off anytime you want, right? That's the key thing that you don't want, right? Just because you have the wrong speech or not the right speech, or you did something that is not palatable to the government, they can turn you off, deny you services. You don't want that. That's the beginning, especially in the Western societies. So that's a key thing. So that's why I've been preaching this, and so everybody should get a trust credential for life. Get it once, because the reason today people are having issues is because they have to keep redoing this digital ID or ID verification over and over again. It's very repetitive. And that's why you see all these problems, and it's done inconsistently and so on and so forth. If you can have a standardized approach to verifying your identity, verifying your background, any level of trust as the use case may be, right? You get it once and you don't have to disclose any of the underlying PII, personally identifiable information. That is the best approach, and user control and user consented. So that way the society is evolving with both the consent and with the consent of the governed and the consent of the government. So or the government, so to speak. So government still has to issue what I call a fundamental ID, which is like a birth certificate or a driver's license or national ID card. But if they digitize it, unfortunately, they can turn off and on anytime you want. That's the biggest issue that they have, and they will have. So Western societies should stay away from that. In fact, I'm going to be writing a post about it the next couple of days, just talking about that, because that is really, really the beginning of a digital dystopia, in my opinion.
And Western societies or societies
Any
like
society, but the question is, can we solve world hunger? Probably not. But so at least Western societies have evolved over the years in terms of freedom and democracy and freedom of speech
Mm.
and so on and so forth. And you don't want to go back on that, right? We are trying to lift the other parts of the world, non-Western societies, to hey, come along, see how we have progress over the last century and so on and so forth. Come along, and they are slowly beginning to come along, and that's when you need to be more transparent and not less transparent. So, you know what I mean? When you're trying to encourage other countries to come along and join the force of, freedom and democracy, you don't want to go the other way. You want to keep, raising the bar for that. So that is my take on this whole thing.
Wow, great insight. And
Irrespective,
you've been,
because irrespective of how one feels, because you may feel one way or the other about a certain type of government, but once the government does, it's very difficult to take it back. Very, very difficult to take it back, because they have interested. They can just squash the opposition to it. And so I believe there's like 1 or 2 million people have already signed the petition against it in UK alone. So it's just only a matter of time. If UK is doing it, EU will immediately start doing it, because they are even more, eager to control your life, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a great point. And critique our identity environment here in the U.S. You were very involved in initiatives around identity for many years, including policy. What is working? What is broken? I just got my Real ID, for example. What a debacle that was. Why are we falling short when it comes to identity pre-check and other kinds of environments or tools that are being used?
Yeah, we have what we say. People should understand a couple of things. One is the fundamental ID. They confuse the fundamental ID with ID verification, right? Fundamental ID is that's only inherently a government function, because the government, or what I call authorized institutions, will issue a passport, will issue a driver's license, will issue a national ID card, or will issue a birth certificate, right? Because the hospitals are authorized to issue a birth certificate, and they are regulated for those kinds of stuff. So that I see as the fundamental ID. And then the Social Security, for example, is also issued by an institution of the government. And then date of birth is assigned, Social Security is assigned, right? And the address and other things are where you are progressing your life after you're born. So, and what happens is that fundamental ID is in multiple forms, and then people do sort of a discrete checking of that. And then what crooks have figured out, hey, I can fake that ID, right? So they have fake IDs, fake driver's license, fake passports, and all of those things. So now it's the job of the private sector to fundamentally verify the authenticity of the document, which is why they call it doc verification. And then, so what? If you verified it, okay, if that document has a picture of yours as part of the government ID, then you can verify the picture by doing a liveness detection. So people have figured out how to do liveness detection. People have figured out how to verify parts of it. So because of the last 10 years, 15 years, the whole space has evolved. As you and I talked in the past, is the internet, one of the biggest pitfalls of the internet is they did not have a foundational identity layer. So we are latching on and piling on different types of identity verification on top of internet and internet's commerce enabling capabilities. So in doing so, people have come up with different point solutions over the last 10, 15 years. And every one of those, I'm not knocking any of those solutions. They are good at doing one of those things. But now the problem is so exorbitant and so expansive. With the advent of the AI, you need a comprehensive solution that verifies everything about you. A biographic information, biometric information, your address history, and your background. Earn that high assurance or high trust level for a variety of stuff that is required in society. So that is where we are spending most of our time and propagating and also enhancing. Our solution covers all of those things, and that's why we are pretty well positioned in that space for the future, because we are what I call the new generation ID verification and ID screening platform.
And talk about
And one of the
trueandme.com.
fundamental things, right?
Yeah.
Everybody is trying to do this, and then having done the TSA, we are the ones who authored the TSA pre-check technology and whatnot. So having done that, I said, why not bring that same thing to the commercial world? Because we own the technology, we have the patents on it, and we have everything around it. So I said, why don't I build something for the commercial world? It's a very nice concept. When you get it once and reuse it anytime, multimodal, multi-channel. So that's exactly what we are doing. It's TSA pre-check for the digital life.
And enter truame.com. I've signed up, truame.com. Explain for the unfamiliar, uninitiated, how does it work? What's the process? How long does it take to get your Trua score, your Trua ID?
Yeah, so we have, you can just get your Trua ID, which is verification of biographic, biometric, which is liveness detection, address history, right? And then Trua score is all of your background screening. That includes any and all. By the way, you can stop anytime or you can do the whole thing. The score is only assigned for the full verification, which is verifying your criminal background and your civil background, which is basically court records. Education is verified. It doesn't mean you have to have education. It'll tell you whether the degree that you received from a certain university is valid or not. And then same thing, professional licenses are verified. So once you have all of that, you get Trua score. It's downloadable in your digital wallet, whether it's Apple Wallet or Google or whatever it is. And then you use it for any and all purposes for verification. Because we are in the early stages, right? We have 100 plus customers, or nearly 100 customers, I should say, but they're all using it for a specific use case. So the application is, very, very wide. You can use it for all kinds of stuff, online gaming, online gambling, telemedicine, dating sites, right? They all require verifying their identity and at least some form of background to make sure they're not criminals or somebody is not bankrupt and they're taking advantage of the other person that they're dating and so on and so forth. So you get it once. It takes probably 5-10 minutes. Spend the time in your life. That's all it is. And after that, you can always say, hey, you don't need to collect my social or date of birth. Here's my True ID or True score, and you verify it. So because it is not a thing that is in the ecosystem, we are going through sponsors, which is basically employers or sponsors who say, hey, provide this for your employees who you're trying to bring on board. That's where we are targeting. And then marketplace platforms, for example, right? Those who are providing care services and plumbing, electricians, and so on and so forth. And that's where we see a bigger impact because there's a lot of turnover. There's also a lot of chaos in that industry.
And speaking of chaos, the problem with giving your personal information over and over and over again are data breaches. And yet again, we see another gigantic data breach with TransUnion, over 4 million people. And this is a daily headline now with different providers. Is this the solution to the problem of personal information being leaked everywhere and anywhere?
Yes, the key is to protect your personal information by not exposing it for repetitive sharing. Right. That is the fundamental. See, what happens is every company, good, bad, or indifferent, they're collecting your personal information to verify you. That is not their job. That's not their offering. Their offering is gym services. Their offering is care services. But they have to verify you because that's what some of the regulations require. So what they do is where they collect the information and create a honeypot for themselves. Right. It's easy hackable by others. Okay, so what you want to do is, I don't want to collect. If I'm in the business of providing care services, right, I'm spending a big chunk of cost of doing business, big chunk of my budget on verifying the individuals coming into it. It has zero ROI for me per se. ROI is somebody getting my services, not necessarily I'm betting them to do some of these because I have to do it because of regulatory reasons, or I have to do it because of my own reputation and so on and so forth. So you can, and I have to have, if I'm collecting information, I have to have cyber insurance and some of the other insurance, right? That's costing me a lot of money. So how do I overcome all of those things? Right? If I can outsource that to somebody and say, hey, as long as you provide me high assurance individuals, I'm good. Remember, LifeLock had that thing. If your data is ever exposed or what, we'll give you $1 million to recover and so on and so forth, right? It's the high assurance. There is lack of solutions in the market that provide that kind of assurance to individuals. Once you have that, the company that is providing services, marketplace or employers, right? Employers are not in the business of verifying, right? The employer in the business of, hey, getting you on board and getting the job done, whatever the job they hired you for. But they spend enormous amount of time upfront in onboarding and other things. So you can reduce the cost overall in society, in organizations, and saying, okay, if I can outsource that to somebody with high assurance, Like, for example, today you don't assemble your own financial reports and other things to verify the credibility of an individual. But this person is credit worthy, right? So what you do is, hey, you pull down a FICO score and you pull down a credit report from the three credit bureaus. It's the same concept if you have something similar to that. And that's what we'll be announcing in the first quarter of next year. And then
very
what we have
exciting.
done is, what we have done is taken all of the issues with the old way of doing business. So we have tokenized everything in our system, and it's all on blockchain ledger for high assurance and high audit trail. And it's a zero knowledge proof. That means you only know what you want to know, as opposed to, yeah, you figure it out. Okay, here's my social, here's my date of birth, here's my address. You figure out if I'm a legit person, right? Why is the burden on me as a verifier, right? Somehow we have gotten used to it. Same thing, my biggest fear is people are getting used to data breaches every other day. And that should not be the new normal, in my opinion, because it's costing the companies last year, 2024, 42 or $43 billion in data breaches. It costed them.
And the fines are piling up, and you're putting yourself open to lawsuits. The awards, judgments are piling up. So you have so much innovation ahead over the next few months. What are you excited about in terms of expansion, influence, and the ecosystem you're part of? What's on your radar?
I said we are already launched the trust credential for life, I call it, right? Like a TSA pre-check for digital life. And then how do you issue that, and how do you transact in the future is like a trust bureau concept, which is just like a credit bureau. We have a trust bureau thing. It's all patented. It's all locked up, and we are putting some final touches to it, and then we'll be launching it in the first quarter of next year.
Well, so exciting, so important, and thanks for joining.
You don't have to spend any money. The organization can start building systems on their own platforms.
That's amazing. No, it's an incredible opportunity. Also, check out truame.com. Thanks so much, Raj, for the update, and we'll be back in a couple weeks and check on progress. And thanks everyone for listening, watching, sharing the episode, and getting your Trua account. Really important and necessary in this digital age. Thanks so much, everyone. Thanks, Raj.
Thank you, Evan. Thank you, everybody.